All right, we are live for the Wednesday edition of the Hangout. Excited to be back with the fellas. It's been a minute, but here we are again, just get a chance to connect and just bounce ideas off each other. And for the most part, talk about recent events as well as share our 2 cents on things. But we got Tom in the middle, and then Mr. Andre to the my far left or right. But how you guys doing, my friends?
Fantastic.
Doing great. Doing
That's
great.
good. That's good, man. So I titled this one "The War Drums Are Beating Louder and Louder." And so, all you guys, cover all these subjects as well. So I'm curious to get your take on things. But, before we begin, I put out the question, what's the probability of us getting out of this year without there being some type of escalation? And Tom, you said it's not possible.
No, personally, I don't think it is because, okay, if we rewind the clock a little bit, let's go back to February of last year when I'm meaning NATO, our involvement really became center stage and provocative to Russia.
Yeah.
If we would have backed off at that point and let the Eastern speaking region of Ukraine, Eastern Russian speaking region of Ukraine do its own thing, let them have their own Slavic civil war, and maybe we just continue the same aid packages we were doing without doing this entire world like Mockingbird media type thing where everybody has to get on board, everybody has to sanction Russia. And it became to the point where the Russian people and the Russian government realized not only are they trying to destroy our livelihood by sanctioning us, they hate us. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then on top of that, red line after red line after red line after red line, pumping in NATO weaponry that then Russia summarily blows up. Okay. If we would have stopped then, yeah, there could have been an off ramp, but now we're at this point where NATO is de facto a member of this war. It's just commonly understood. We are going as NATO going to fight until the last Ukrainian. So at the same time, we have clowns like Lindsey Graham and I believe his gay lover, Sean Hannity. That's me saying that. Those two getting on TV every night and saying we need somebody to take Putin out, and then we're going to break the Russian Federation up and we're going to balkanize it. So then from the Russian perspective, it's like, how do we lose this? There's no peace because President T-shirt over in Ukraine has signed a law saying that it's no longer allowed for any Ukrainian leader to negotiate with Russia. So Russia does what? They lose. That means Putin and the entire Kremlin are deposed or executed, and then the Russian Federation is balkanized. Well, that's a no starter because the Russian nuclear doctrine is if the safety of the Russian state is at risk, first strike nuclear use is on the table. So that's a no-go. Russia cannot lose this war. And now NATO has pumped so many weapons, so much technology, and we've trained and built up the Ukrainian army since 2014 in the Maidan coup, and we've made it so public and such a big thing that we can no longer just say, you know what, we're done. Because then NATO looks even worse than it did after the Afghanistan withdrawal. Then what happens when China comes for Taiwan? And I'm sorry, Ukraine's not an ally. Taiwan's not an ally. But if we're talking about global importance, Taiwan and the semiconductor industry is of national security concern for the United States. So I can't in my mind think of a way where this ends without some sort of all-out total war. Like just total war. And this is, I'll end it on this. This is going to sound absurd, but I truly mean this. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's been happening simultaneously the last year or two is we have all these UFO, like UFO things that are coming through the Senate and the Congress.
Right.
Every institution is so distrusted right now. I truly believe the only way that the United States and NATO can back this thing off a cliff is saying, oh my God, we have aliens. We know them. They're here. That admission that there's aliens from the United States, from outside of this world, would change humanity forever. It would stop everything. Nothing else would matter. That would be the only way to back off of this, in my opinion.
Damn.
Yeah, I like to mention an article, paper. I moved my camera from my office, but you guys probably heard of it. The Iron Mountain? Tom, I know you probably heard this. The Iron Mountain Report or something like that.
The Rand Report. The Rand Report.
The
Rand Report from
Iron Mountain paper. It was like written in the 60s or something like
I'll look it up.
And they in it there it was like a think tank that came up with ways to form how do you form a one world government, and the main obstacles was sovereignty. So how do you get rid of sovereignty, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you willingly have nations? How do you have nations willingly give up sovereignty? And they came up with these like three major ideas. One, believe it or not, was climate. Right? We're all under the same climate. Create some type of, or say there's some type of climate catastrophe, and everybody in the world affects everybody in the world. Everybody gets behind that. You need one centralized organization to make decisions, things like that. Another was actually UFOs. And lo and behold, 60 years after this paper is published, and I don't remember what the third one was, you get climate change, emergency, and potential UFOs. Mm-hmm. There you go.
There you go. I bet it was a global health emergency, the third one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely on the table. Like all of a sudden we got UFOs and the government at the same time. Like we had this, back when I was in high school, they were talking about we about to freeze to death, and then they were talking about the ozone layer is about to fall, all this stuff, and then now it's the ice caps are melting. Climate's always changing. That's not the problem. The problem is like, are we doing something so so harmful that we need to stop? And if that is the case, is that a government thing or is it a free market thing? That's what that conversation needs to be about.
Right. And of course, we know that the whole climate issue plays into the ESG movement and them trying to monetize the climate. So it's ultimately every event that we've ever experienced that's been thrown our way is about how can they monetize it, sell it to us with fear, and then somehow, some way build a product off of it to sell into the market for the corporations and the banks to monetize, yada, yada, yada. So we know how that goes. But, with this current event of war, there can only be one winner, if it gets to the point where it escalates into a multi-nation, multi-countries war, all included. And Putin made it clear that, they're not going to lose. Like, if we lose, we all going to lose. The planet going to lose type of thing. So, will bigger heads prevail? I hope so. But I think it's very concerning. And speaking of which, once Biden announced that they're sending 31 tanks, somebody put this on Twitter. I'm going to bring this on the screen real quick here. Somebody's mentioned about, Kansas Department of Defense military equipment moving today shortly after Joe Biden announced he plans to send United States armored equipment to Ukraine. And so not sure if this is directly related, but you see all these taxpayer-funded military vehicles here heading off to Ukraine, basically become target practice for Putin. So those things won't see the light of day more than likely. What are you guys thinking?
Did you guys hear about Germany doing the same thing?
Yep, the Leopards.
Yep.
And there's something to be said. Like a tank crew just it's not like you go from a Buick to a Cadillac. Like they're going from Soviet like T-70 tanks, and they're moving into like the Abrams the Abrams tank, the Leopard 2, the British sent over some of their, I think they're called Challenger tanks. They're complicated pieces of equipment. They take 4 men to run. They need trailing convoys for service and fuel. So you're talking 4 to 6 months, okay? Unless they've already been training these people and they're already ready to go. I read another article that they're going to be training these Ukrainians off-site. And basically when I hear that, it's either they're already trained or we're using a bunch of people who might have been kicked out of the military for not accepting a certain medical procedure that have already had the training and being sent over, like some Navy SEAL, the first ever to go AWOL that just got found dead in the Donbass. Oh. So there's logistical hurdles, and in the tank thing, Russia is vocally saying is a clear red line, a clear provocation, and they're even saying now I don't want to say the NAZI word on your channel, but they have clearly attacked Germany, saying they're on the wrong side of history again with the same exact country. And that if this keeps going, if Germany keeps going, Berlin will be a legitimate target for them. Because at what point, like when Lindsey Graham is talking about Zelensky, a president T-shirt, and his goon squad. Okay, first of all, let me just say this: my great grandfather fought NAZIs in World War II. I will never support NAZIs in Ukraine. I'm just going to get that off the table. But when President T-shirt and his far right crazy lunatics are out there slaughtering women and children, all right, and you're sending them a bunch of weapons and they're doing terrible things with them, at what point is it our responsibility for supplying the lunatic with the weapons that he is then using to commit genocide on women and children? And that's documented. You can look it up. The UN has documented it. It just until February of 2022, then all the news stories changed. I did this in my video today. It's insane. This is Goebbels level propaganda. It's just being directed at us to accept atrocities.
Right. And speaking of which, real quick, I want to share with you, we're talking about training. And so this is an article from last week. It says U.S. is getting Ukraine ready for a more aggressive war with Russia, training it for tank battles and other large-scale combat. So well before the tank information was announced, which was today, it looks like there was already plans of training the Ukrainian troops. And I actually saw somewhere that they're going to be training them also here in the U.S. as well. So it's more safer territory. They get trained here, they get sit back there. So yeah, anyway.
Might as well.
All on the taxpayer dollar. So at this point, man, like they have committed to seeing this thing all the way through until the end. What does the end look like? You know, like, so even they have to know that it's going to mess up their agenda of resetting things, I assume, or perhaps this is a part of the whole plan. You'll own nothing to be happy with it because it's all going to be blown the hell up.
Yeah, I don't see this messing up anything. I think this is lockstep because you got to own nothing and be happy to get to that point, right? You can't, in my opinion, you can't have a physical currency. That's one of the pillars of that utopia. You can't have a physical currency. And they are dumping so much money into this war that can't be won and it can't be lost. So Russia is not going to back down because if they do, that's the end of Russia. And NATO, for whatever reason, if they haven't realized that this corrupt government, the most corrupt country in Europe, isn't worth backing, when are they going to figure that out? I mean, you got, I had to write her name down because I'm horrible with names, but the foreign minister of Germany was
Annalena Baerbock.
Damn. The other day, what was that, 2 months ago? She was like, we're supporting Ukraine no matter what. I don't care what my constituents say. We're backing Ukraine. I'm like, well, she's got to go. You can get her out of office. She's not representing her constituents. Then I think yesterday or the other day, she's like, we're at war with Russia. I'm like, what? She's like that girl you take somewhere and she end up getting you in a fight because of her mouth.
Right.
Like, shut up. Shut up. I mean, Russia's already said we're at war with NATO. Then NATO sends in tanks. Then Russia's like, well, Germany's free game. Anywhere Germany is, our bullets can go. They basically just said that because they're sending tanks into Ukraine. What are these people doing? I don't see any off-ramp for this. And war is the biggest spender of money. You need to just blow this dollar out of existence. So until I see something else, I see we're right on track. And history, we have history on our side. So you have World War I, and after World War I, you got the World League, and that failed, right? Then after World War II, you get the United Nations, which is still around, but more importantly, you got that monetary situation came out after Bretton Woods and all that stuff. So how many, I'm not going to directly connect the two because, like Tom's grandfather and some of my family members fought in that war, right? But I want to say they were fighting to see for a currency. But how many people actually had to die? And after they died in that war, we got Bretton Woods. So how many people are going to have to die? And after all these deaths, we're going to get a CBDC. I just see the connection there, man. Like,
innocent casualties, man, caught in the middle, and we've been sold a narrative that we're there to free Ukraine from Russia influence, and ultimately, Ukraine is the biggest proxy that the globalists have chosen to funnel funds through, set up neural weapon, bio labs, and all types of things, which have come out now. and so they're hard pressed on making sure that Ukraine stands at all costs. So how many lives will be lost? I don't think we even see nowhere near the full amount as of yet. So now I wonder. Here's another little tidbit to also ask about. Here's Russia installs anti-aircraft missiles on key Moscow buildings and sabotage fears. So if this is true, once again, it's coming from the UK source, but you think Russia thinks something's coming their way to where they're perhaps just providing a little bit of cushion so that they can defend themselves, or what are you guys thinking?
Speaking on this, I watch a channel, an English guy that lives in St. Petersburg, Russia, and off the top, Earl Grey TV.
Okay.
He lives in Russia. He is definitely like a hardline pro-Russian, but he's traveled to the Donbass, done some documentaries. And another guy that he does videos with lives in Moscow, and they provided video evidence of this. Like, it does exist, and that should send chills down people's spines. Like, a capital of a country, a world power. Let's say Beijing, Washington, or Moscow. They start putting anti-aircraft missiles installments in their capital city. That's really got to start waking people up.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why people are just so tuned, or like I don't know what's wrong with people. I'm not somebody who like gets hyper, like, oh my God, the world's ending. Sometimes I want it to, but the world's ending. But this is real and this is serious. And I want to ask both you guys. Let me ask you guys a question for once.
Sure.
Do you think that, yes, we all know that there's a grand plan for, like Andre says, the CBDC, and Mike says the reset, the financial reset. But do you think the powers that be, the Western powers, actually have control over this situation?
Yeah, that's a great question, because then you're saying, are these people just stupid, or is this a plan that's been set in place? And to me, I don't believe anybody's this stupid. Like,
right.
I can't.
But think about this. Just go to your point earlier about the Iron Mountain report. That was a overall arching plan that was put in place of things that need to take place in order to bring about a one new world order structure. Everything we experienced to this point is taking us in that direction. Still, I don't doubt one bit that Putin is aware of that same strategy, as well as Xi, as well as all the other nations. And I think literally, they all know the overarching plan that's in play. Now it's that, like, how do we sell this to the world to make sure that they don't realize that we're doing this to them, rather than these events are unfolding just by circumstance and we are also scrambling like them. Like, they're still in control of everything at the back end, because they control technology, the governments, and the currency, which is basically what keeps us alive. Like, we do what we do on a daily basis because we need the currency to feed ourselves and yada, yada, yada. So that's all that stuff has been hijacked, man. So, I don't think it's planned out according to a plan directly, but they all understand what's at stake, and it has to do with the reset. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that however reset plays out.
I definitely, like I always say, I don't think it's definitely not like your typical voter. They don't know. The typical low-level politicians, they probably don't know. I would say up in the upper echelons of government, those people, there's some that do know, obviously, because somebody has to know. But I believe a lot of these people just don't know, and they're just going with the flow. It's like, on my channel, I talked about how a narrative is like a river. Once it's going, you just need to drop something in it, and it'll just go down the narrative. And you will see something. It will be so obvious when something's going against the narrative, because it's going against the river, right? So if you just plop your typical politician in this river that's flowing to the left, boom, he just flows with it. And his decisions, his value, well, in order for him to get in that river anyway, his values and belief system have to align with that. If not, it's going to flow. He's going against the current. So he probably won't even get in there. And then Trump, when Trump got plopped in that river, he was this bright orange, thing flapping about, and everybody just see like, hey, he trying to tell everybody that, this thing is going wrong. So, yeah, I think there's a plan in place for sure. Who's orchestrating that? Who knows? Maybe Maybe it is. Professor No, or whatever his name is, World Economic Forum. Dude.
Watch this. The acting parties from our political front here is no doubt the longest tenured politicians. Like the people who've been lifetime, politicians. Biden been there 50 years,
50
Pelosi
years.
40 years. What's the Maxine Waters 50 years? I mean, so they know what's
Feinstein,
going on.
man.
Right, yeah, Feinstein.
They know what's going on, and they've been a part of orchestrating it from the inside out, like all the legislations that's come about and all the stuff like that. They're the ones that are overseeing things, and all the other ones that are new, they're just more so the good guy, bad guy. Like, you got, Paul, Rand Paul, he's a good guy, speaks good, but he knows his limitations. You got all the other Mooney and all those other people, the Godak people. They speak good, but they're newbies. You know what I'm saying? They don't really carry no weight at the end of the day. So,
but I guess what my question was, though, like, yeah, I understand that we live in the age of machine politics and grand plans and open schemes, and there's nobody denying that. There's nobody denying that the WEF and the Davos types are literally pulling strings behind the back. And Mike, you were saying that the dollar, the currency is everything. But what happens when you take you remove the counterparty risk from the other party, and you say, well, I can't use the dollar, so what does it matter if my missiles hit your city? Because you controlled the dollar before. You took my ability to use that away. So now what counterparty risk do I have? I have none. I have zero. You've threatened me. You've pushed me into a corner. What risk do I have? So I also believe that we are ants in an ant farm that's being, bulldozed and plowed by these freaking globalist maniacs. But at the same time, humans are humans and they're emotional, and a plan can only be so big and so complex. And at what point is it possible that Putin's not playing games and he's not part of any plan, or he sees the plan and doesn't like it, and he's going to be like, okay, it's either I'm going to end up in a pink tutu reading my daughter a story about how she's actually a boy in the next 5 years, or I'm going to save this country and be the hero that Lenin thought he was and Stalin thought he was, and they're going to have parades about me. Or like Dugan says, we're going to end all of this corruption in an apocalypse and start fresh from the Stone Age. And that's insane, but that's kind of common Russian thought, because they think of us Western types as so decadent and so corrupt, and I can't blame them for thinking that way. So I just, in my mind, I struggle to think, where does the big plan end, and where does just the drive to preserve your nation begin?
Yeah, well, motive has always been like a sticking point for me. Like, what's the motive for all this? Like, what's the motive for someone who doesn't know me to want to control everything I do? Because that's basically what you're doing. Like the fat guy from the International Bank of Settlements was like, well, they can be using cash. We wouldn't know what he's doing with the cash. So that's why we need the CBDC. I'm like, dude, why do you need to know what I'm doing with the cash?
Right.
Like, seriously, why do you need to know? So the motive for this is, I really can't nail it down, other than the weaponized the tool is weaponized altruism, right? Like, you're going to get people to care about this issue and give over their, privacy in the form of this digital currency, blah, blah, blah. They sell it to us in a certain way. I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, but they'll sell it to us, as a convenience, for safety. But at the end of the day, you're giving up a lot of your privacy. So what's the motive for that? And the only thing I can think of is really for them to keep their status. Because if there's one world government, right? Let's say we wake up in December and there's literally a one world government. Well, I would think everybody who's a leader now in Great Britain and in the United States and Canada, they'll still maintain their quote unquote status relative to us. They may just have someone over them that's exposed. Where right now, that person is probably already there. We just don't know about it.
Good point. Now watch this. Let me. So the first thing came to my mind is, you say, well, what's their motive? Why? To me, it's a spiritual demonic, satanic. I mean, we all know about the sacrifices, trafficking, what they do to keep. I mean, we know the whole ring, and it's a part of a much darker atmosphere that like they don't want us to really talk about much. And if you go too deep into it, you get canceled, you get censored. If you mention a certain ethnic group, you lose your bank accounts, your shoe brand. You know how that stuff go. But I want to pull this up here real quick because I use this. I call this the pyramid of power. And I just grabbed this real quick, but I've mentioned this before. But at the very bottom is the control factor. From the time you're born, you go to school, you work, you pay taxes, you're dead, you retire. You know what I'm saying? That's the model they keep us in. Then you got the government structure. Then you got the corporations that are working together with the public-private partnerships, World Economic Forum. Then you got the IMF, the World Bank. Then you go above that, you got the Committee of 300, the Council of 13, and at the all-seeing eye. I've seen more stuff talk about, that's referring to Satan itself. So. However it plays out. But this pyramid of power here, and the biggest part of it is the ants at the bottom, the debt slaves. And I think this is what they're trying to rebrand to be more digitified.
Inclusive.
You say inclusive?
Yeah.
I'll say exclusive for them in comparison to us. But then again, they're trying to use technology with the digital ID, the CBDC, and the tracking and tracing, and smart cities. You can only go 5 minutes away from your house, and so that's just a new brand of what they've already been doing with this current debt model. So,
I think it is like a new addition. Like, because I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I kind of upset him a little bit, but I was like, if you think about. I'm always talking about slavery, right? In America, anyway, and world slavery in general, but historically speaking, slavery in America. I was like, if you took us, and I was talking to him at the time, my friend, I said, what would we likely be doing? If this was 1857 and we're in Georgia. He was like, well, likely we'd be on some plantation somewhere. And I was like, okay, well, what would we be doing? He was like, what do you mean? We'd probably be picking cotton or something like that. I was like, all right, well, say it's not harvest season, it's not planting season. What would we be doing? Like, right, chilling, like playing a banjo or like, just trying to holler at some women or something, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna fast forward you to 2021. If you're two black guys in Detroit, what are you likely doing? Right? If you're not saying you're unemployed, but you're almost the social status. I'm not even talking about racism at all. Just that stratosphere in the economy, not much has changed. Like, you go from the bottom of the social economic ladder in 1857 and you go to 2021. And in a lot of these communities, it's still the same. Like a vast majority of African Americans are still at that level, although you're physically free to go wherever you want to go.
Or we think.
So
think about this. What come to mind is we were the product then. We're still the product now. They're just in a different form. So nothing's really changed other than the perception of freedom, because what do we really control at the end of the day? So
no, but you guys are both right. Because
if Tom, let's say for some reason me and Tom met in the free state of California in like 1850, right? So me and Tom, chopping it up in San Francisco, we hang out, have a great time, and then 10 years later, we separate, and I tell him I'm from Georgia, right? And I say, hey, I'm going back to Georgia. Now, if Tom is looking for Andre in 1857, where's he gonna go? He's going to look, the first place you're going to look is probably a plantation somewhere. Like, okay, is a black guy South. He's probably around the plant. If he's not a slave, he's probably around the plantation. You can say the same thing today. I can meet Tom in San Francisco today, tell him I'm from Detroit, saying I'm about to go back to Michigan. Where's he going to start looking? Urban Detroit. I mean, it's the same. Technologies change, materials change. We're free to walk around. We got a lot of rights and freedoms, but if you're taking a view from 60,000 feet up over the course of time, a lot of that is still the same. So that pyramid you just showed, it's like you said, it's a rebranding. So Tom, you're in that bottom part now with me and Mike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Humanity in
Now they
general
try
is
to
in that
add
bottom part.
more and more people into that. I don't
This
think
is
it's really going to change. I think, other than you won't have physical currency, the people at the top of that pyramid now will remain. You, and Tom will just have a lot less privacy and a lot less rights.
two things. What did Rosa Parks say? She said, I would have freed a lot more people if they only knew they were slaves, right? And then secondly, you're right. Like, it doesn't right now, that whole, what you're talking about, is we're all just the non-elite, the even the middle class, the lower class. If I pull up in a 1995 Toyota Corolla and I tell you I'm from whatever city, you're going to look in a bad part of the city. But if I pull up and I tell you I'm in a Cadillac and I tell you I'm from that same city, regardless of my skin color, you're going to look for me in a different part of that city. So yeah, it's absolutely true. It's transcendent race at this point. And it is somewhere in the Bible. I think the Old Testament, it was like, why would you work 7 days? You're not a slave. You take the Sabbath, right? We have lost that because this American idea of like just go is really consuming us to be materialistic, and it's feeding corporations. And okay, so that's Andre is absolutely right. And basically that old slavery model has just moved in time and space to encompass all lower class people, all non-elite. Even most middle and upper middle class people are still in that. If I miss a week of work, I miss 2 weeks of work, something happens to me, boom, everything's gone. I've leased, borrowed, I own nothing, and I'm happy, right? I owe the bank for everything I own, but I'm still happy. I'm driving a Corvette, I live in a big house, whatever the hell. But
that system
now try to tell this same thing to someone in Africa. Tell someone in Africa that they can't cut down this tree because of the environment. They're going to say, if I don't cut down this tree, my kid doesn't eat. How about you go F yourself? Don't kill this gorilla because it's endangered. If I don't kill this gorilla, my whole village doesn't eat. Go F yourself. This model that this European Davos elite have concocted and just enslaved all of us all of the Western world does not translate to Russia, does not translate to Africa. China is already super enslaved, so they would be happy to be where we're at right now. But yeah, it's weird. Like what Andre is saying, it fits perfectly with what you were saying, Mike. It's like this is very first world, but they're trying to keep the third world and the global south from even having our first world problems. And that's the problem.
Now, speaking of Russia real quick, the Russian citizens are also at the very bottom of this.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And so, like, it was 8 billion people on this planet now. How many ever number what the number is, what we're told. We're all in that category here. And I would even submit that even some of the, billionaires, perhaps, the corporation sector, like they don't call shots. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They have to abide by certain rules and regulations, or their companies go bye-bye. And we know they don't want that to happen. So they're going to comply too. So the biggest question is like, these families has been around for generations, hundreds of years. I would assume that they're closer to the top of this pyramid. And, they're the ones that own the central banks, that own the currencies, that own the, what I'm saying? So it's those people that, we would need to get to in order to really make change. But then we can't really aim on a lot of those people.
Do either of you know the story? It was either the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds. I don't know. But basically, like Napoleon had just lost the war and they owned a newspaper and they ran a headline saying Napoleon won. And they basically bought everything for $0. Yeah. And then they lied to everybody and they stole everybody's wealth. Right. Who was that? Do you know the story I'm talking about?
That was the Rothschilds. I forgot which one it was.
Hey, but this, you'll own nothing and be happy. That situation has actually existed in the past in this country. And it was called slavery. See, this is why the narrative is so important. So the narrative on, I don't know if I talked to you guys about this before, but I think I asked the question to everybody, like name something good about Satan, right? And most people, there's nothing good. But then, he could sing, right? He motivated people to come get kicked out of heaven, so that's good, right? Then you say, name something good about slavery. Ain't nothing ever been good about slavery. You nuts? Ain't nothing about, it's like you can't even consider it. But if if I was the slave of the year, because of my physical prowess, I'm just, making all type of hay and doing everything. And then, I go out and get some wood and boom, there go my ACL. I'm out for 6 weeks. Then I come back, I'm back in the game, right? Next year, get slave of the year again. Then I go out and get some more wood. Now, back is gone. I can't do nothing. I'm on the sideline forever. What happens to me? I was in my prime. This ain't the NFL. They don't just send me home. They don't kill me either. Whoever my master was or is at that time has to take care of me until I die.
Nuh-uh. I doubt that. If you ain't producing,
they do. There's laws on
every casualty. You out. I'm gonna trade you or sell you.
Who you gonna trade him to? I ain't taking him. He can't do nothing.
You get something for you.
From cradle to the grave.
But isn't this so?
Owner, if you're a white slave owner, if you're a Native American slave owner, if you're a slave owner in America and all those states that had slavery, from the cradle to the grave, you are responsible for what they eat, clothes, food, shelter, and you can't just kill them because they got a sprained ACL or they're paralyzed. Think about it. There were kids who were born handicapped, so they can't. It was called murder. You can't just kill somebody because they not profitable to you. But you can't even discuss that narrative. All that to say.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. And everything you just said, just take away the word slavery. Who would you imagine? A leftist begging for universal basic income and Medicare for all. Because it's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. They are begging. Put me in shackles, government. I will do whatever you want as long as I don't have to take the risk of being free. That's exactly where we're at right now.
I was about to say, you'll own nothing to be happy. And one of the biggest examples of that is one of the biggest stories we have about slavery with John Brown, when his crazy butt went to Harper's Ferry he was on something, man. But him and his band of like 12 people was trying to take over a military institution, went to a plantation with slaves, and they were like, nah, we good. You do your thing, man. We good. We got 3 hots in the cot, and we get fed, and we clothed, and we're good. If we wanted to leave, all we got to do is cross the river right there. So I'm not advocating for slavery. But what I am saying is
me either.
That existence where you own nothing and be happy. Those slaves didn't own anything. I'm not saying they were as happy as relative, right? I'm not saying that they were as happy as the slave owners, but we know about 4 slave revolts in the United States over the course of 400 years. It wasn't like everybody was trying to escape, and you can't even talk about that, right? Again, just in case somebody want to clip this, I'm not advocating for slavery, not saying it was a great thing. Slavery was evil. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. But there's 2 sides to every coin. And the danger of you own nothing and be happy is that has existed.
Yeah.
This isn't an alien concept from another planet or something. That has actually existed. And again, I'll quote one of my favorite Southern gentlemen who was a pro-slavery guy. He said, socialism, which that universal basic income shit, is nothing but scientific slavery.
Yep.
Gentlemen, okay, so let's talk about the leaked documents or the strategically placed documents, and who's possibly up next. Where are you gonna find some documents next? So we had Biden at first, now Pence. Like, okay, they couldn't just make it solely a Democratic thing. They had to put a Republican, so-called quote unquote Republican in it. What does it mean? Why now? Is this more of a distraction, diversion tactic? What are they trying to hide from us? What's coming down the pipe other than war that they probably trying to keep our eyes from?
You know what, Mike? You need to, on your screen back there, maybe you use a back screen, and we need to put up some predictions.
What is that? Okay.
You need to put up some, like they do on TNT.
I'm out of the prediction game.
With Chuck and the basketball game.
Yeah.
Put up the predictions for the year. We need to do that, man, because here's my prediction. I've been saying this since that The old man got elected. I said he won't do 4 years. They're going to figure out a way to get rid of him. Either, he passes away, unfortunately, or they find him in some crime and he gets impeached. Why? Because they need to usher in Kamala, because she going to push in the most ridiculous socialist, Marxist policies that directly align with the World Economic Forum. And the way she'll be able to do it is because people who look like Tom and identify as a male, like Tom currently is,
is a fluid situation.
You can't debate them, right? Like, Kamala's in office, Madam President. Why did you're a sexist, you're a racist, you're a homophobic, right? You can't do anything. So she'll be the perfect shield for them to push through these crazy left-leaning socialist Marxist concepts that the World Economic Forum is pushing so hard for. And hey, you leaving classified documents all over the place, bruh. You got to go. If it's not that, maybe they'll finally bring up charges on this Ukraine stuff. I really don't think he's going to make it 2 years. I think we'll have a president come. That's my prediction.
So as of right now, when is the next? It's presidential election 2024, and then that president would enter the White House on January. Was it
the first Monday? I think the first Monday of January.
2004, right, or 2005?
2005.
Okay, so that's that 2-year time frame. So you're saying Kamala or Biden is still going to be one of the Kamala will probably be give or take there until that time frame there. My thing is, based upon this war stuff, I always said this well before all this, the probability of us actually having an election where people can actually get up and go out and vote, because the ballots that's commonplace now. So no more going nowhere. And once again, we got Bill Gates talking about something's coming. So that might come right before the presidential cycle, making sure people can go vote so that it'll be cast your ballot. And of course, they got all the ballots already filled out already. They're just waiting on the year. So it's like, we're not going to have another presidential election that's going to be of anything, because we can't trust the previous elections from 2020 or the 20 or whatever elections we had. We can't trust none of that crap. So it's it's a wrap, man. But
yeah, if you have mail-in ballots, the Republicans ain't winning nothing. They're just not winning anything. I mean, this isn't even conspiracy stuff. It's just logistically the Democrats, the way it's set up. If you want to go knock on doors, it's just so many doors to knock on in urban America, which is all Democrat, right? If you want to go outside of that, where it's Republican town or whatever, Republican country, you got to get in your car and drive, a couple of acres to get to the next potential voter. So it's just
right.
Yeah, unless they have to get rid of these ballots, man. I mean, these mail-in ballots. That's the only way I can see a Republican winning. They already lining up Governor Newsom.
Speaking of which,
I actually heard somebody say they might get rid of Biden, Kamala, Jeffries, and just somehow pushing having Newsom in there. I'm like, I don't know what Constitution they read, but I'm
all types of order. But once again, they don't abide by the Constitution anyway, so they trying their best to rewrite the whole thing. But here's just something I found yesterday. Claims the discovery of 200,000 failed votes in Arizona. This is huge. So she's still pressing for the stuff in Arizona, as if it really matters. I don't know, but this is the type of stuff that the world is up against. So,
with the whole document thing, right? So we gotta let's do a little bit of a timeline. Dana Remus, White House legal counsel, July 2022. She announces that she's going to be resigning from the post of White House legal counsel. And remember, White House legal counsel represents the office of the president, not the president himself. All right. So that's July. Then these documents at Biden's house were supposedly found July. And then basically it was she announces she's going to resign. They raid Trump's office. This lady, Dana Remus, is now Biden's personal attorney, who then finds documents in Biden's office. Why was she looking? That's the big question, right? So I think this is a lot simpler than people are making it out to be. Hunter Biden is under investigation by the Delaware courts. Okay. if possibly they found classified information on his laptop and the court ordered a subpoena for that information, and it happened to be at former Vice President Joe Biden's home or his think tank at 101 Washington Avenue at UPenn, then that would be a bit of a problem. So they find this right before election, and then they announce it as, oh, we were cooperating, when possibly it could have been they were subpoenaed for it. And the whole Trump thing was just a cover up, or to tie him to, oh, well, Biden's going to step down, so Trump's got to do the right thing. But really, I think all of this is okay. What happened right before all this information, minus Trump? New Congress took place. What did new Congress say they were going to do? We're going to start investigating things. So what does the FDA come out with? Oh my God, all of a sudden we found out a certain thing that we've been pushing all of a sudden is might be linked to seizures. And then what happens in Ukraine? Oh my God, they're all resigning because of corruptions. Why? Could it possibly be because they're about to be investigated? Then all of a sudden, Hunter Biden's been being investigated. So, little Merrick Garland has to say, well, we're going to appoint a special counsel. What does that do? That protects the president. Oh, it's a special counsel. We don't want the Congress to interfere with an ongoing investigation. Let the process play out. That's exactly why they did it. And as of today, I'm pretty sure that Jim Jordan just got a response from the DOJ saying, oh, well, because of our internal policies, we can't cooperate with your subpoena from Congress because it's an ongoing investigation with a special counsel. This is all cover up. This is all front running a cover up. They're just putting up all of the fences that they possibly can because they knew the new Congress came into town. Since the new Congress, how many things did the government admit to that they've been lying about? It's insane. All of a sudden now, people are getting hurt from this Tylenol medicine that they've been forced to take. All of a sudden now, we have X amount of people coming over the border. All of a sudden now, Ukraine's firing everybody because of corruption. It's like, come on, this isn't a coincidence. Oh, wait. Also, we can't forget, all of a sudden now the FAA is admitting that pilots also have a bunch of heart problems. They don't know why. Like, really? Really? To me, this document thing just falls into that. They wanted to appoint a special counsel. This has nothing to do with Biden directly. It does, but this is old. This was from the Hunter Biden document, Hunter Biden laptop. They subpoenaed these documents, and they needed to front run it and make Joe Biden come out looking like, oh, I'm cooperating, I'm doing it. And as far as Pence came out one time, and I remember him saying, I was in a room without my wife, but I did not touch her. He's just a dweeb, and I think that's his thing, and he's just told on himself because he just wanted to somehow be relevant. That's my thing.
I think it also he put his name out there, or they floated his name out there as a possible candidate for presidency, exactly. And so test the waters. But it's like, dude, like nobody's messing with you. Like it's just you didn't do us no justice on your exit out of there.
Judas Pence.
Look. What else? What do you think? What you thinking, Dre?
Gavin Newsom, you guys seen that picture? Like, we've had 2 mass shootings in the past couple of days in the state with the strictest gun laws in America. And he said something like, the Second Amendment was put in as a suicide pact or something like that. Meanwhile, he's walking around the streets of California with 3 armed bodyguards. So, I'm not important enough to be able to do that, but apparently he is, and I thought we were all citizens.
Right.
So dumb. I'm so stupid. But that said, at the end of the day, I think it's inevitable. I'm going back to the CBDC because China's going to have it. And it looks like Russia's already dabbling with it. If not, China already has it.
China already has it, and Russia is working on it. Every country's working on it. It's just more so what they're telling us.
It's like the nuclear bomb. It's like the nuclear bomb. You can say you don't want to use it, but you're going to have it because it's just the physical currency when it comes to transactions across the border. I do believe, I haven't heard this or anything, but I do believe it'll probably be sold to us as a way to literally restart everything. I mean, you're out of debt. And those you owed money to, we'll just give them that money. But you're out of debt. I can see them selling it that way. You know what I mean? Like if you have college debt, you no longer have college debt, and the debt that was owed to someone else, they no longer have that debt or that asset on their books. Or they'll turn that asset, they'll make it so that nobody loses. Because if you think about it, the central bank never loses. They don't have a profit and loss statement. So why not just do it for everybody else? If they really want to reset everything, and I think that's probably what they're going to do. That's why I said last time, African Americans might actually get reparations. Not that they give a damn about African Americans, but it's definitely a good way to kill the physical dollar, just dumping all this money into the system to a point where you're like, we got to do something. You know what? All that we gave African Americans $5 million. Guess what? None of that money is worth anything. We're gonna start everybody at zero. You're all equal now. Shut up. We gave you reparations. Boom. You're all eating bugs. You own nothing. Just be happy.
Right. That's the reboot. Like, the system needs to be reset because it's far outlived its capacity to maintain itself because of that. Reboot it, started clean. And unfortunately, majority of people that's where I guess in their thinking, majority of the people that's at the bottom of this pyramid, they don't really own much anyway. So they won't really lose much. So we'll give them what we feel is appropriate for them, housing accommodations. We'll give them a monthly UBI, and we'll, let them know what days they can go to the grocery store or not, and they'll be happy with it type of approach. So, but
plantation.
That's a sick and twisted narrative that they want us to go for, man.
Hey, man,
but let me ask you guys though, like I'm with you on this, Mike. Like we definitely need to accelerate this and just let it go. This $31 trillion guillotine that's hanging over all of our necks it's not sustainable. Like the ropes can give out sometime, and hopefully not while my neck's under it. Yeah. So we definitely need a reset. And like Andre's talking about, I don't want a CBDC. It's only used for tyranny. There is no legitimately good reason to use a CBDC when we have a global digital financial system. Okay. But the question is, and this is something I run up with against people. Okay. Yes, I think that what we're doing in Ukraine is bad. Yes, I don't like the woke thing. Yes, the dollar has been weaponized against us and against the world. But do you really want to live in a world where the BRICS nations are the moral guidestone for everybody? Because I sure as hell don't. I don't want to live in a world where China sets the moral agenda. I don't want to live in a world where Russia sets the moral agenda. At the end of the day, America, for all its flaws and all of its corruption and everything that we've been through since 1971 with Henry Kissinger and the Trilateral Commission and the WEF and all of that, I would still take America and its constitution and its Christian values as the guidestone for what morality is and what our society is built upon. And unfortunately, if you strip the dollar away, society collapses, and whatever fills that vacuum, if it's a yuan or a ruble, if it's gold back, if it's digital back, doesn't matter. What's also going to come with that is the morality of that nation. And I don't have the morals of a Chinese communist. I don't have the morals of a Brazilian. I don't have those morals. I have the morals of an American who believes in this country and its constitution, even though it's pie in the sky wishful thinking. And that's where I kind of butt heads with people sometimes when they're like, well, the dollar is going to collapse and it's going to be BRICS and the Petro yuan and this and that. And do you think is that better? Is that really better? Because I don't think they're going to give deference to us. Us here right now, I don't think they're going to give any deference to.
I will agree with you and throw some fly in that ointment because right now,
much appreciated.
I don't think you could take a 4-year-old to China and get a gender a surgery done on a 10-year-old. So I agree with you. I think the United States Constitution is the greatest document ever written. And if the world just adhered to that, that would be better than communism. Because communism kills. I mean, it's over and over, it just kills. So we don't need communism. But I don't know, we have all this debt in the system and it has to end. Like Mike is saying, this just can't go forever. But when it does end, if you don't replace it with a CBDC and another nation does, then you're at a real disadvantage, right? You're at a total disadvantage. So I haven't heard of anything that will replace the the physical dollar. Like we're going to destroy the physical dollar and we're not going into a CBDC. Like, what's the alternative there? I don't know. So if there is a CBDC, I think people like us has to ensure that your privacy rights are respected and just nailed in there, if that's even possible, because I don't think it's actually possible for it to be totally private.
There's not going to be. I think it's going to be a multi-tier society. You know, similar to a lot of those space movies where you got the people on ground who participate. They gave in, they complied. We see who in the world will be willing to comply when you apply enough pressure. They'll comply to maintain their standard of living, things like that. We saw that already. And so the people who don't comply, they'll have the barter economy. That's why you got your gold, your silver, everything like that. Right. So you can have alternatives. And so we're going to definitely get back to barter and things like that. So how it won't be as comfortable because you won't be able to participate, in society the way you want to. But then again, hopefully, greater heads prevail and we actually, debunk all that stuff and it fails. That would be the goal. But, ultimately speaking, biblically speaking, like you mentioned, the greatest document of all time, I would probably say this one right here.
Yeah,
which is, the key for that other one. But in the end of that book, there it tells us how all this comes to an end. So it's like we will have a one world currency. I don't question that one bit. So it's just a matter of what time frame, whether the CBDC is a part of that because they're trying to interconnect the countries and we go on and on. I ran on about that all the time, but so yeah. So here's let me share something right here. So Ed says, you guys are forgetting someone must produce something or no one has anything.
That's a good point.
Robots are for.
Very true. Very true. Good point, Ed.
Does producing Rumble videos count?
Yeah, somebody has to produce something, but that's we talked about that chat bot. I mean, Chat GPT or whatever last week, and this is 3, and they're already talking about like 4. I saw some ridiculous number about computations that Chat GPT does now, and then the next version that's supposed to be like 100 times as powerful. And I'm just like, man,
where does it go? Where how powerful does it become? Because it's disrupting economies, it's disrupting sectors. As we move along, every day sectors are being disrupted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we're gonna end up with like an inverse idiocracy. Because when I was younger, okay, I'm 35. I remember when I was a teenager, I lived in rural Maine. Okay, so we were years behind, and I remember when the internet came around, I was the only one that had it, right? And I was like, when everybody gets access to this, it's no longer going to be how smart you are. It's going to be about your ability to access information. And I thought truly that people would use that in a good way, but people just got stupider. But I think what's going to happen with this Chat GPT thing, it's going to be like the inverse of idiocracy, where men with calluses on their hands that can change a tire are going to become so just sought after by women that we're going to have this like this renaissance of like just masculine men and like Amazonian women, and like there's going to be this like nerd culture that's sitting there asking their Chat GPT how to change a coffee filter.
Yeah,
and I think maybe I'm just a little wishful thinking. I think that might be
I totally get that, man. I mean, there's some kids, like, I don't know how old my niece was when I was still asking her if she could read a clock. Like, they just, everything's digital, right? Like they just, I mean, she was well beyond the age. Like, I was shocked she couldn't read a clock at that age. I forgot what age it was. But think about it. If you don't need to remember phone numbers, if you don't need to think about directions because your phone is telling you how to get there and where to go, you don't need to calculate numbers at all. Like, why? Anything beyond simple arithmetic, what are you doing? You're just wasting time, basically. So I can give you a great example of a stupid way I use Chat GPT. I wanted to make some pastrami. So instead of going to Google and asking for a recipe on how to make pastrami, I just put it in Chat GPT. And you know what I didn't get? All those stupid ads that come with the recipe, right? It just told me what to do, how much, the ingredients, everything. So wherever they got that information from, they, calculate, got it together, present it to me. This is how you make pastrami, Andre. You don't need to look at these ads, nothing like that. So just something that simple I can do in 2023. In 2025, man, like if you do something that powerful and something that can move like that, Sophia robot or whatnot, or these Japanese robots that are already working in nursing homes. I went to. Do you guys have a Bevmo where you're at? It's like a liquor store. There's a chain liquor store. It's a big like warehouse type of liquor store. But this is 2 years ago. They had a robot to greet you at the door, and you tell them what you want. Hey, may I help you? Can I help you find something? I was, well, okay, I want some liquor. I want some, let's say vodka, right? Okay, follow me. And it would take you to the liquor aisle. And if you said, well, I want some Russian Standard, that's a great liquor that nobody sells now because of this Ukraine crap. But if you're looking for good vodka, Russian Standard is probably the best out there in this price.
That's kind of amazing.
Anyway, yeah, it would take you to the bottles of Russian Standard. And I was like, that was COVID time. So 2020, 21. And if you put something as powerful as ChatGPT in something like that, it's just a game changer, man. And just looking forward,
it's coming, man. And it's good to say it's already being utilized, just not presented to the public yet.
Yep.
Maybe I'm disconnected. Maybe I'm disconnected because I live in New Jersey and we're the last state in the country where it is required to have an attendant pump your own gas. So I figure if there's a person pumping my gas, ain't no robot looking for my liquor for me. At least when the gas station attendants get replaced by robots, I'm moving to Minnesota or somewhere.
Hey man, I think Montana. You still have to have someone pump your gas in Oregon. I haven't been there in a while, but
that's crazy, man. I ain't seen that in a long time.
I love it. The gas is cheap. I mean, we're at the end of a pipeline, and the guys, especially with it's been cold out lately, so it's like I'm cool with it.
Well, gentlemen, man, we're at the hour point, man, and as always, we can go forever. But I know you guys got things to do, so do I. But as always, man, it's good to connect. We cover a lot of subjects and just better understand what's going on, man, and hopefully we got some good laughs out of it. And so I want to definitely point everybody. Let me just bring it on the screen real quick so everybody can find out what's going on. So you guys produce content as well. Want to make sure I remind everybody the coming conflict. And Tommy, are you on YouTube yet or what?
Yes. Yeah. I am going to be doing a segment on YouTube every week called What the F? Why the F is nobody talking about this? And that's going to be on Rumble and YouTube.
Okay, good deal. So check them out, the coming conflict. And also we have The Broke Capitalist on YouTube as well. And current author. You working on another book, Dre, or what?
I got a trilogy. It's called Ideas in Blood. The first one is called Nyack. The second one's called Marshall. And the third one isn't titled yet, but I'm working on that now.
Okay, well, hey,
look out for me at thebrokecapitalist.com.
Bet. All right, my good people. As always, appreciate you guys for hanging out with us and just sharing your 2 cents in the comment as well. Leave some comments down there. And I don't do a good job of checking the chat to, ask questions and thoughts, but you guys, if you get a chance throughout the day tomorrow, come back and check the comment section. If you got questions for these guys, they'll be there. Go follow them, whatever. But anyway, enjoy the rest of your night, people. Be blessed, be safe. See you guys later.
Hey, man, have a good night, guys.